Richie, let's talk a little bit of fall camp. Let's maybe start there today. I think that's probably what people are the most excited about. I'll let you start out, man. What's been, I know the different reports, different things we've seen, different clips on the timeline, highlights, interviews, post practice. Just what's your biggest takeaway so far as we've gotten going here in camp?
Yeah, no, so I feel really good about the defense. Even with all the new pieces, we've talked about that defensive line and how solid that's going to be. We have questions at the linebacker position, obviously, and we love our secondary and our safeties. So I've been really mainly focused on the offense. My takeaways, had 4 practices so far, and practice number 4 was DJ's first turnover interception, which I'm okay with because typically new quarterback, new system, start of fall camp, you'd expect a couple turnovers here and there, and for him to go 3 practices without doing that, and then doing it on the 4th one, that's fine. It sounds like he's really settling in pretty nicely. So really happy with how that's has gone, and I'm really excited. It sounds like Danzy is he should be in Paris right now, TJ. With the speed that I'm hearing in the videos we've seen, it's ridiculous. Mike Norvell is going to find ways. He's not going to be a featured part of the offense this year, but man, with that speed, put him on special teams, put packages in for him. That is a guy you need to have on the field. Sounds like the running back room is absolutely loaded. I cannot wait. I don't know if it's this video game or not, TJ, but Roydell Williams has me super excited. And the updates from camp do support that. And then I just really think this is going to be probably the best and deepest offensive line we've had maybe since 2013 when we won the national title. I'm just super excited like I said, my focus has mainly been on the offense because I trust what we have on the defense, but I'm very encouraged with what I'm hearing from the offense.
Yeah, just starting with DJU, I feel really, really good there. I feel really, really confident in him. I know there's a narrative of a lot of people that watched, East Coast football, of just, how bad he's going to be and just kind of the way that he played as a freshman and people expecting him to just go out there and be terrible for FSU. And then, I just don't think they really watched last year. But yeah, all reports coming back out of camp are just that he approaches the game the right way. He plays the right way. He certainly has like the confidence and the leadership and the things that you want from that perspective. And he makes the throws. Now, you mentioned the one turnover. I heard there were a couple of plays that certainly could have been turnovers had the defense like caught the ball or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, they weren't, and you're going to have, we drop picks and other teams drop picks too. So, I think day one was, even though he had the pick in day 4, I think day 1 was probably his shakiest. And since then, he's looked really, really good. Like any kind of questions or any kind of now you got to go out and do it, like in Dublin and then in Tallahassee and everywhere else we'll travel. But, any questions or any kind of concerns about, the level of play that you would get at quarterback, or I don't know. I just, they're pretty low for me. Like, I think you'd have to go out and really, really underperform, for me to be super concerned, especially with, we talk about the schedule and we're going to kind of power rank the ACC teams here in a little bit, but we talk about the schedule. Yeah, he would have to, for me, maybe the SMU game, maybe Georgia Tech, right? If the defense plays poorly, just, SMU is a little bit different just because I do think they've got a really good offense. But, those first 4 games, I don't think they're going to be close enough for me to be incredibly concerned. And I love the way it sets up for DJ. I love playing LSU first. The last couple of years, I like playing Notre Dame first. The year before that, those were awesome, without a doubt. You think back to 2016, playing Ole Miss. It didn't go our way, but you think about 2017 with Alabama. I love playing those big games first. I love that we're not doing that this year. I love that it kind of gives DJ the chance to ramp up a little bit against teams that you're significantly better than, to where you should start 4-0. And in all of reality, even though SMU is kind of the fun upstart team, you should absolutely go on the road and beat SMU. There's no questions about that. And then that sets up kind of maybe the home game of the year with DJ getting to play, his former team in Clemson coming back. And so I'm somewhat appreciative that, that Florida State doesn't open up with LSU. Now, I mean, I'd be talking my crap just like we did the last 2 years if we did. So I'm not like super worried about that. But yeah, I'm glad we don't open up with Alabama like we do in 2025. I'm glad that we don't open up in Athens like we do later on in the 2020s. So yeah, I like the way it sets up for DJU, and everything I'm hearing out of DJU is that there's just no concerns there. Could DJU go out and have a 3-interception game and throw an absolute stinker? Absolutely. Jameis Winston did that here. Like that's dual. Yeah, that could happen. Absolutely. Jordan Travis threw pick sixes last year. Like that, quarterbacks are going to have bad games or
Chris
games
Swinkie threw 6 interceptions in one game.
yeah, it happens, right? And so I think the national narrative or the public perception of DJ is just like, oh, well, wait till that happens and we're going to jump all over you, and like that's fine. Like if that's what you do, that's fine. Florida State loses a game, whether it be Clemson or Miami or Notre Dame or whatever, because DJ has a bad game, like then that's fine. They're going to probably lose another game, or like the defense doesn't play very well, right? And hopefully it's not anything that's like super serious or rivalry, but like I mean it's hard to go undefeated. Like that's that shouldn't be a super big surprise. But yeah, DJU super excited. I think everybody there around that has been very positive, and the sense that I get when chatting with people is that they're almost trying to like temper expectations, like and not. I don't know. We sound like super big homers, I'm sure, right now, and sun's always shining, and nothing bad can ever happen. But I do think that the people that I'm talking with are trying to almost like temper that, because he's been so good that they don't want to just come out and say like, "Oh man, no, he's been phenomenal," and just watch out this year. They're trying to like back that off some, but if they were being on it, like that's how he's looked. Now you got 2.5 more weeks of fall camp to go. There's a lot of time for ups and downs, peaks and valleys and things like that. But I think things set up really, really well for him this year. Just on the running backs quickly, not a ton has changed the way I think there. I mean, I think Roydell and LT are, I said this on Saturday on a radio show. I think LT and Roydell Williams are good enough to be running back one a lot of places in this country. Like I don't think they're both better than like Georgia's running back. Like I don't think they're both better than ETN or something. And I don't think they're both better than whatever. I don't have to go through every single running back in the country. Like Alabama, they probably wouldn't both be running back one for Alabama. They probably, but I think they'd be running back one a lot of places. And so like I think you truly do have a dual-headed monster there. I don't think you did last year. I don't think LT was as good as he was in the ACC championship. This is no slight at him. I mean, you clearly had a 1-2 last year with Benson, right? And you knew you were going to have that because of the year that Benson had the year before. And so I think you had a clear 1, a clear 2, and a clear 1 and 2 may emerge from that tandem at some point. But nothing really has 4 days into camp, 5 days into camp. Nothing has changed my thoughts on the running back room. I've thought it's going to be very good, and I still continue to think it's going to be really, really good. I'll talk wide receiver and O-line, and then I'll let you kind of like follow up on anything. But I mean, I'm trying to not drink the Kool-Aid here and just be super positive on every single position group. But I'll say that wide receivers are still probably my biggest concern on the offensive side of the ball. But what I've been told is that I think there is some concern. There's some concern with who's going to step up, who's going to be the depth, who's going to come through for you in those big moments. I think they're less of a liability than I was thinking earlier, or even just a week ago. I actually spoke with some people in Charlotte, and then talking with some people after a few days of camp. DJ's elevated his play a little bit, and so like I think that has helped Florida State's wide receivers elevate a little bit as well. And so wide receiver, I'm starting to have less concerns there. I'm less concerned about that room for the season, which is a good place to be, right? Like if you only had one concern offensively anyway, and that is starting to diminish, like overall good thing, right? No complaints really there. Again, very early in camp. Let's see how they hold up. Let's obviously avoid as many injuries as we can, but wide receiver certainly less of a concern. I know there's, Malik had a really nice day one day. I don't, his speed is ridiculous. I don't know that, I'm still not like tagging him as, he could be a number one, anywhere in the country or anything like that. But I think he'll be a really solid piece for you and a really good piece. Like, I don't mean to diminish him at all. I'm not necessarily buying all of the hyperbole that's coming out on Benson, but I still think he's going to be really, really, really good. And and I think that room will be fine. And then, like you said, I argued with somebody this week on offensive line. Somebody said, this is going to be the best offensive line we've had since Bowden was here. I'd still put 2013 ahead of it. Somebody said, well, it's deeper than 2013. And I was like, well, it doesn't matter. 2013 never got hurt. And so I think the play you got from those 5 guys in 2013 is going to be better than the play you get from whichever 5 line up for 12 games this year. If you have no injuries, it'll be better than that. If you do have injuries, then 2013's top 5 was going to be better than anything else that is a depth piece that has to play this year. It is deeper. We were very lucky that 2013 year to not have any injuries at offensive line. Obviously, Jimbo quit recruiting that position, and you saw that in 2014 and beyond. But that offensive line was elite. All those guys went to the NFL. They were all really good, and you didn't need depth because you stayed healthy. And so I don't think that this offensive line can be that good. I'd love to get this revisited. I'd love for you guys to come back and throw this in my face, but I think it's going to be the best offensive line since then, and the people that I'm chatting with are really, really excited for this O-line in 2024. So that's my offensive thoughts. I don't know if you want to follow up on any of that before I grab a sip of water, take a breath, and then talk defense. We will get right back to the video, but we told you last week about the Mango Board's new website. Hopefully you've gotten a chance to go over and check that out. There was a bunch of new fun stuff that you can do over there, a lot of new online features, a scavenger hunt, new recipes to check out. They're doing a lot of fun stuff, so go check them out. And if you haven't yet, make sure that you tag them on social media. Get entered to win a FSU branded mango polo. Just tag at Mango Board on Instagram, X, or Facebook with your purchase of mangoes. Whether you're in the grocery store and you just upload a picture of you getting one, if you want to shop Instacart or one of those and screenshot it, tag the Mango Board on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and get entered to win a free FSU branded mango polo. You won't be disappointed buying mangoes, and you won't be disappointed eating the mangoes in a new polo that is presented by the Mango Board either. Appreciate them for their support. Go get that done. All right, back to the video.
Yeah, I think with the offensive line, I think the floor is pretty low just because of the depth that you do have. The ceiling, I don't think is super high, but it's solid. You're going to be top 3rd in the ACC and probably top 3rd in the country if we're talking 130 plus college football teams. So I think that's a really good place to be. To your point, TJ, that 2013 team, they only lost one starter, Hunter, and he was replaced by a guy named Jalen Ramsey. So the injury luck that year was ridiculous. We're probably not going to have that injury luck this year, but I do think the depth that you can afford a few injuries, maybe not season endings, but a week here, a week there, and the offensive line, they're not going to lose you games, and I think that's a good place to be. And going back to wide receiver, which you touched on a little bit, you have a bunch of, in my opinion, of WR2s, right? I don't know if we have a wide receiver 1 just yet. I certainly think there are prospects that could turn into that and be that as early as week 1 in Ireland. It could happen that soon. But right now, where the team stands, you got a bunch of guys that would be a solid wide receiver 2 almost anywhere in the country outside of Ohio State, because they're just always ridiculous with their receivers. But you have a lot of potential. If Florida State taps into that, if Ron Dugans, Mike Norvell, Alex Atkins, if they tap into that potential, that unit could be really, really good by midseason.
So defensively, I'll be quicker here. I think you've had some, defensive line again. Kind of like running back. My thoughts haven't really changed there much. I think you're still in a really good position on defensive line. I think I stand by the starting 4 being as, potentially as good as anybody else's starting 4 in the country. Past that, depth is something that, as camp continues to go along, we kind of we'll find out more about. I think there are some good pieces there in the depth. They just need to kind of emerge and see who's going to be that true guy, whether it's Sione or just whomever, right? Who steps up there to give those guys a break. Linebacker, again, thoughts haven't changed much there either. I haven't, just truth be told, haven't dug as much there. I mean, Florida State, I'm gonna not say that. Never mind. Tune into the Discord. I'll tell you what I was gonna say there. But linebacker is a position where I think if I had to guess right now, I think between Cam Riley and Juice Cryer, like you'll probably have a solid linebacker too. I think that you'd like to see a little bit more out of Blake Nicholson. I'd love to see him on the field quite a bit. I mean, people always comment about Omar. I mean, super athletic, needs to get in there and mix it up, and obviously DJ is kind of going to be your leader. But I'll focus on DBs for a minute, and I think that's, I mean, as good as your starting four defensive linemen are, like your DBs are so deep right now that it's ridiculous. And I love our corners. I think that Florida State probably has two of the better corners in the league. I don't know how they. Actually, I guess has the All ACC stuff come out yet? Probably not. Like it just wrapped up on Friday, so hasn't likely come out. The incompetent conference, has that come out? Have you seen that stuff?
I'm not. I got an email today to tell me as a reminder to put my picks in. I'm
Oh,
like,
of course.
I put those in last week.
Yeah.
Like, what are
So
we
of
doing,
course,
ACC?
the SEC has theirs come out like while the conference is going on, or while the kickoff is going on, media days or whatever. Not competent enough here for that to happen. So, um, you know, just added to the list. AD Alford, but yeah, I think two of the better corners. They actually both got my votes for cornerback. So take that, everybody else. I think Cypress is going to be really, really good, and I know Azariah Thomas is going to be really, really good for the Noles because he was last year, and I just expect him to continue that. But I think Fintrell is. I mean, not trying to Jalen Ramsey or Deion Sanders, anoint those guys just yet. But I think they can be just as good as Green and Jones were last year for you. And so I'm really high on Florida State's corners. I think Shaheem Brown's one of the most athletic safeties in the not only the country in the conference but in the country. I really like what they've got just all over the secondary. I mean, I love her a little. I think that there is going to be a lot of talent, in that defensive backfield. And so I'm really excited to see how that progresses, what happens there. And I think Florida State's going to continue to load up at DB and continue to be developed by one of the better coaches in the country at defensive backs in Pat Surtain. So, again, defensive line, linebacker, not a lot of thoughts have changed there. It's early. DB's going to be great for FSU this year. If the line, Florida State obviously puts a big emphasis on their line, puts a big emphasis on their defensive backs. Linebacker, play can be hit or miss, at times. If you can get really good pressure up front and you can play really well in the back end, I mean, your defense is going to have a chance to be really, really good. And if your linebacker play can just be average, you should be fine. So I think linebacker play will actually be a little bit better than average, but overall, I think D-line defensive back's going to really carry that defense to be really, really good this year. So, any thoughts there, and then we'll maybe move on just a bit.
No, I think you hit it all. I mean, just looking at the defensive line, last week, this day, a week ago today, we were in Charlotte at the ACC kickoff. And, when you watch Pat Payton and, Josh Farmer on TV, or even if you're at a game, you're like, oh, they're pretty big dudes. Nah, man, standing right next to them, I'm 6'2", 180 pounds. I felt tiny as hell, man. Like, it was ridiculous. Those are some big dudes, all muscle, elite athleticism. Yeah, I'm excited about the defense because the talent is all over the field. Again, we can, nitpick about linebacker if we want to, but as a whole, and Adam Fuller has a lot to work with, and I do think this will be a top 10 defense again this year, much like it was the last 4 to 5 games of last year.
Somebody asked about tight end. I'll say that I think Kyle Morlock is probably overperformed, not overperformed, but had a little bit. I had a better spring already than a lot of people expect. Obviously, got highlighted than in a video that FSU put out. I think he's going to have a good year for FSU. I know a lot of people are really excited about Landon. I think as a true freshman, you probably need to pump the brakes just a little bit on. I know the video game makes him out to be really, really good and super athletic, which kind of what happens when you're 5-star in a video game. Yeah. But I think
tough position.
Yeah, I think Morlock's going to have a good year this year. I think a lot of people discounted like how tough that transition would be from shorter to Florida State. And I think even when he committed, I mean, you have to go back to December of 2022 to find this. But I think even when he committed, I think we said I go find the commit video that I made. I think I'm fairly confident. I said like, this year we'll see what we get, but next year, gonna really be a good player for the Noles. And Norvell even mentioned that, just that transition. I don't know if that was in a media breakout session or where, but Norvell mentioned that too. Just that time it takes to really align. So I do think he'll be really good this year. He also had to play behind Jaheim Bell, who was a really dynamic player at that position, and so you kind of had to share some of your reps with a guy who ended up getting drafted, in a fairly decent position for the kind of player that he was. So yeah, excited for that. Special teams. I mean, put me down. Bold predictions not here yet, but I'll take both a punt return and kick return for touchdown this upcoming year. Did we get a punt last year? Did we have a punt return go? I don't think we did. I think just kick that Duke game.
No, just span. Yeah.
So I'll go punt return and we're not too bold predictions yet, but don't steal mine, Richie. I'll go punt return and kick return for touchdown, just thanks to the specialists. Hey, I'll go pick six too. You know what? I'll do all four. I'll do those two and a fumble six. So I'll do all four, and that'll be one of my bold predictions. Harlan, don't let Richie steal that one. So, but yeah, good. I mean, it's I think Master Romano could be all ACC, preseason all ACC punter. So I think he could be really good. I don't know if Fitzgerald should get the same kind of love, but if he can improve at all on last year, which last year was really, really good, then I think Florida State will be pretty happy with how they have their kicking game next year. Keon didn't get a punt return for a touchdown, but he did. I think both
he got close a few times.
Yeah, the Florida game and the Miami game, I think were both like 40 or 50 yard returns. One from I think his own 10 got it up to the 50. One from like the 40 got it down to like the 10, and so it was he flipped the field twice, but banged up and kind of hurt. He still did pretty good.
Yeah, if he was healthy, he would have got one of those in for sure.
He was,
especially the Miami one. Yeah,
he was special, and those were probably two of the bigger plays in both games. So
for a guy who never returned punts before, unbelievable.
Yeah,
and apparently has never signed a contract before. That was hilarious.
Keon's the funny. Some Bills guys actually hit me up and reached out and said like, "Hey, we want you to come on and talk." It's a Bills Jets podcast, which is really specific and really kind of random, I guess. But they were like, "Hey, we want you to come on and talk Keon and Jordan Travis." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I could Jordan, of course, I love the kid, but I could talk about
days,
Keon forever about Keon Coleman." So yeah, like let's roll.